What up, guys? Welcome to the Son of Wonder. Huge new announcement. Marvel is dropping Avengers Kang Dynasty and going with Avengers Doomsday with Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. Let's conversationalize. Alright, guys. First of all, holy mess. Second of all, holy mess. And then third of all, I was kind of thinking, holy mess. So not only did we get basically, they didn't ever even mention Kang Dynasty. They literally brought the Russo brothers are back. The guys who directed Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, they're back. They're coming back to direct the next two Avengers movies, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. And they never even mentioned Kang Dynasty, as if it never existed. 2 years ago, they announced Avengers Kang Dynasty with Jonathan Majors as the villain, Kang the Conqueror, and then Avengers Endgame. And of course, because of some illegal stuff that Jonathan Majors did that he was convicted of, Marvel had to drop him as Kang the Conqueror since then. And so now it's literally as if Marvel just never announced Avengers Kang Dynasty and is just now making this new Avengers 5 with Avengers Doomsday because they don't even mention it. So that surprised me that they didn't even acknowledge Kang. It seems like Kang is just out the window completely. We're going with Dr. Doom. But, that's not even the big deal. I mean, it is a huge deal. It's a massive deal. That would have been a big deal by itself. But it's hard to describe because it's as bad of a place as the MCU has been in recent times. Especially coming from me because, I've hated most of the stuff that the MCU has done since Endgame. Most of it. I've just hated. It's been terrible. It's been absolutely dreadful. The storytelling, it's been really bad. It's actively destroyed stuff that's come before it. Not a fan at all. So, coming from me, who's been very critical of the MCU for the past few years, it feels insane to be able to have this feeling of ultimate excitement. Because I am actually excited. Because, this isn't a general thing where, it seems like everybody's on board with this. With this little-known actor. They announced this little-known actor, He's been in a few things. He really could be great for the MCU. He has a movie called Iron Man and Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3 in his roster. So he really could be good for the MCU. His name is Robert Downey freaking Jr. That's his actual name. Robert Downey freaking Jr. That is now his name. His name was Robert Downey Jr. before. Now it's Robert Downey freaking Jr. just because of this announcement. And he's playing Dr. freaking Doom. Same thing. His name is Dr. freaking Doom now. That's nuts. And it's insane in a way that, no matter how you slice it, in any way, negative, really positive, even, if you're not, sure, if you're, right in the middle, you're not really sure how you feel, that's nuts for anybody. Everyone and their mother and their dog is freaking out about this to a level of, it's nuts. It's just nuts. And I keep repeating that because it's that big of a deal. And I think it's that big of a deal for a very obvious reason of everyone has been saying since Endgame that the MCU has fallen off a cliff. And a lot of people contribute Endgame's success and the success of the first three phases of the MCU to Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I mean, and he literally was the star, the face of the MCU. He was the heart. He was the pinnacle. He and Captain America both, but especially Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. So, I'm going to explain why I think that this is actually a step in the right direction. I think that this is a phenomenal idea. Much better place to take things than Kang the Conqueror with Kang Dynasty. And again, when it comes to my excitement level that I mentioned previously, the reason I'm so excited for this, despite my negative feelings toward the MCU in recent times, is because it feels like they're bringing the thing back that made everything work so well previously. And I've always lived by this, when it comes to entertainment especially, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If something's working for you, there's no reason to change anything about it. If people are already loving what you're doing, then there's no reason that you should do a course correct because there's no course that needs correcting. So, in some ways, that's kind of what Endgame sort of felt like. Like, not necessarily Endgame, but what they did afterward. By ending a lot of the main characters' arcs in Endgame, giving a definitive end, I would say a pretty good ending. While I do have a lot of issues with Endgame, I would say in terms of Iron Man's story and Captain America's story especially, I think there were really good endings for their characters. But going after Endgame, they just made all the wrong decisions. In my opinion, what they should have done is they should have gone with the other classic Marvel characters that made Marvel as a comic brand as popular as it was. Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four, X-Men, mainly Fantastic Four and the X-Men, honestly. Could bring in Ghost Rider, Wolverine especially. You should have gone with all of those after Endgame. Even if it took like 2 years because of, Disney had just bought Fox, there was all these rights issues to figure out. Even if it did take a while, you still wouldn't have tarnished your brand by waiting. You would have been building anticipation because people would have been like, what's going to come from the MCU next? And then we would have known, oh my gosh, they're doing X-Men and Fantastic Four and all that. This is insane. But instead of doing that, they just went with the really lame versions of the continuations of some of the character stories. Also, they doubled down on a lot of the bad decisions that they made in Endgame, like Professor Hulk. They kept Professor Hulk and then tried to tarnish his character further, Hulk's character further in She-Hulk. Stuff like that ran rampant throughout the MCU after Endgame. And so this basically feels like what we're doing is we're going to take the star of the MCU, the guy that you loved before, the guy who was largely responsible for making the MCU as awesome as it was, and we're bringing him back. But we're bringing him back as the villain, not the hero. He was the hero of the MCU before. Now we're making him the villain. And the reason that I love that idea, the reason that I'm so excited about this, is because, well, first of all, to set the tone, I love Doctor Doom. I think he is a phenomenal villain, and I've been wanting the MCU to bring him in forever. Now, in all seriousness, bringing Doctor Doom in the state that they were very recently in, and, might still be in, we don't know for sure if they officially fixed things, that would have been bad, because you can tell that they just would have messed Doctor Doom's character up. I feel like they might be course-correcting, though. I just saw Deadpool and Wolverine, thought it was really good. Now, granted, Deadpool and Wolverine is very much its own thing, but still, there's some stuff in Deadpool and Wolverine, without spoilers, that kind of alludes to a possible course correction for the MCU going forward. And when it comes to Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom, I think that that's interesting because it gives a perfect mirror image to the first 3 phases of the MCU, and to me it's what they should have done all along. They should have waited 2 years, said, hey, we're doing X-Men, we're doing Fantastic Four, and the big bad of the next 3 phases of the MCU is going to be Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. Because a lot of people see this as a desperate attempt from the MCU to get any kind of hype back for themselves, any kind of excitement back. And you know what? It probably is. In all honesty, it probably is. There's a large part of this that feels like it almost was like a last-minute decision. It's like, okay, nothing's been working for us so far. What's the thing that we know will work for us, or we at least know that it will get people excited and people talking again? Bring Robert Downey Jr. back, but as Doctor Doom. Bring one of the most famous Marvel villains in the MCU, Doctor Doom. Get Robert Downey Jr. to play him, and get the Russo brothers to direct the next 2 Avengers movies. That's what you do. On no uncertain terms, that is what you do to bring any level of excitement back. That is the most obvious decision, I think. And when it comes to Doctor Doom, from the comics as a character, like I said before, I love Doctor Doom. I'm not super familiar with his backstory, but from what I've seen a lot of the cartoons. I've seen Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I've seen a couple Fantastic Four cartoons. I've seen Iron Man Armored Adventures. Doom is featured in 2 episodes of that, but those 2 episodes are really awesome. So I know enough about Doctor Doom to know that Doctor Doom actually does have some similarities as a character to Iron Man. They both have traumatic things that happen to them in their past that cause them to eventually need to wear a suit of armor in some respect. They're both rich. They both own very large corporations. In Doom's case, he owns an entire country, Latveria. They both have a lot of resources, a lot of assets. They both have a very big ego. But they're both also like characters that have a history to them, and that history comes out in a lot of the choices that they make. In Iron Man's case, it comes out in good choices. In Doctor Doom's case, it comes out in bad choices. And it's the dichotomy, because what I love about comics, what I love about Marvel and DC and Star Wars in particular, those three especially, is the dichotomy, is the very, very distinct representation of good versus evil. Very straightforward, not saying that the villains can't be sympathetic, not saying that there can't be more complicated villains or maybe more complicated heroes, like my dad called them shady good guys, like good guys who, they were definitely flawed, but they were still good guys at heart. Those kind of characters I have no problem with. I have a problem when you start like blurring the lines too much and then you just can't tell. It's like, okay, is this really a villain? Is this really a hero? What's going on? I have a problem with that. So I love the dichotomy of comics as they were in their original form. Good versus evil. You had superheroes and you had supervillains. In this case, what I feel like, there's a lot of potential here. There's an insane amount of potential here for a phenomenal story to be told. And I would arguably have no other directors do it than the Russo brothers, because they did tell a great story, all things considered, with Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. Again, I have my issues here and there, but overall, it was a really good story, especially for Iron Man's character, especially for his story arc throughout the MCU. And the Russo brothers contributed a large part of that with Infinity War and Endgame, and even Civil War, Captain America Civil War. So you take their talent and their proven ability to be able to work with Robert Downey Jr. as an actor to create a really cool story, and you apply that to a villain. That's an interesting idea, and it's something that we haven't exactly seen before. We've never gotten something like this where you take an actor who was like the star of not just one movie, but like a whole universe, a whole movie universe, who was the hero, the star of that universe, and you make him the star again, but on the opposite end of the spectrum as a bad guy, as the super villain carrying the franchise. Now, there are like supposed issues that could come with this. My fear, because it was also established in the same Marvel panel that announced this insane announcement. They also said that the Fantastic Four will be featured in the next two Avengers movies. Also, apparently, the Thunderbolts cast. I'm pretty sure they said the Thunderbolts cast would also be featured in the next Avengers movie, in Avengers Doomsday. My issue with that is, that doesn't sound like Avengers Doomsday. That sounds like Fantastic Four / Thunderbolts Doomsday. That's what that sounds like to me. It doesn't sound like we're like actually building out an Avengers team. It just sounds like we're mashing a bunch of the heroes that we have now and some anti-heroes to fight Doctor Doom. And with the potential compelling nature of this character that they could, fully realize with this movie, making Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom with Robert Downey Jr.'s phenomenal acting talent, my concern is that you're not going to have a hero that is strong enough to balance that out. Now, I do have a suspicion that for Avengers Secret Wars, because they revealed the new logo for Avengers Secret Wars, and it's like a reddish and like goldish sort of color. That definitely invokes Iron Man. People have already said it invokes Iron Man. I wonder if Robert Downey Jr. will also return as Iron Man from another universe, battling Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. That would be awesome. And the conversations that you could get out of those two characters talking to each other would be insane, because what we don't know for sure is that we don't really know the nature of exactly how this whole Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom thing is going to work. The Russo brothers, the way they announced this was they kind of built up to it and they said, like, through the infinite possibilities of the multiverse. And I get a lot of people's skepticism. He was Iron Man. Everybody's attached to him as Iron Man, pulling a thing where you're kind of doing multiverse, because we don't really know if he's going to be a multiversal variant of Tony Stark, or if the Russo brothers introduced him as Victor Von Doom, as Doctor Doom. So he does seem to be playing Victor Von Doom, but it's going to have to be in a different universe, because everybody in the MCU, Falcon and, people mentioned Spider-Man and all that, they're all going to be like, why is Iron Man back but as a bad guy? Like, Who is this person? That doesn't make any sense. Also, other people have said this. I agree. They don't have to take his mask off. They could just have him be in the mask the whole time, and it would be like very much a Darth Vader sort of thing. Where, I mean, of course, they took Darth Vader's mask off at the end. But for most of the movie, you could just have it be him in the suit. Which that would give more of a menacing, imposing presence anyway. So you really could just do that and never even have to explain why Doctor Doom all of a sudden looks like Iron Man. But again, if they're like doing a multiverse thing, if he's like a variant of Tony Stark, and again, like I said before, if they have like similar stories, then there is a version of that you can see where Tony Stark in a different universe could be Victor Von Doom. Or it just could be he's playing Victor Von Doom and they don't really explain anything. Which would be kind of weird. And I think they would need to at least have some level of an explanation for it. But regardless, I think it's a great idea. Also, if you haven't seen the actual video of the reveal of Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, like the audience's like absolute roar once it's revealed, you have to go watch that. Because it's a really cool feeling hearing a bunch of people just be like, so entirely ecstatic to see this new announcement. And it's something that I feel like this actually means something. I feel like this actually has substance to it. Because it's not like an announcement of a project that we don't know whether it's going to come out or not. That's way later down the line. They said Avengers Doomsday is coming out in May 2026. That's already less than 2 years away. Which really surprised me when I heard that and I really thought about it. I was like, that's way sooner than I think a lot of people would have expected. Now, they've delayed so many things over the years. They've gotten way too big for their britches, so it is very possible that they will have to delay this one as well. My hope is that they've gotten their crap together and are able to actually make this the set date that will not move, that will stay in its position and not be delayed at all. That's my hope. But if you haven't seen the video, hearing the crowd roar, the excitement in the room, it's awesome. Anytime Robert Downey Jr. is on stage anywhere, he just brings with him such a big, awesome, charismatic presence to the room. So it plays really well with the crowd, and it's just really cool to see that reveal, especially after the really dour recent times of the MCU. But again, I think that this is an interesting choice because it's taking who was the hero, turning him into the villain. And because of that, you get to explore the dichotomy of like the first 3 phases, Robert Downey Jr. was able to bring his A game as the good guy. Now he gets to bring his A game as the bad guy. The problem is we've had too many bumps along the road of the multiverse saga. A lot of bumps. We were going to go with an entirely different villain. Now we're completely switching to Doctor Doom. So it's not nearly as smooth now. But if they have if there is an ability that they have to course correct completely, this could really be awesome. This could really work. And this could possibly be the thing that will save the MCU. Deadpool and Wolverine did not save the MCU. A lot of people said that it might. I don't think it did. I think it was good. I just don't think it saved the MCU. And I don't think it was trying to save the MCU. But when it comes to this announcement, this might be the thing that Kevin Feige and the rest of the Marvel Studios are like, okay, this is the thing that we're doing that will hopefully save the MCU if we do it right. Because the writing has to be good. And when it comes to like portraying Doctor Doom as a character, I think that Robert Downey Jr. actually is a really good choice. And this is actually taking full advantage of the potential of the multiverse by being able to not limit yourself to be like, oh, well, we already used that actor. Even if he would be a good pick, we couldn't use him again because he's already played this character. I think Doctor Doom is the only character that would work for Robert Downey Jr. to play again because of Doctor Doom's similarities to Iron Man, and because it really, like, you can see the two sides of the same coin whole, like, mirror image thing. Main good guy of the first 3 phases, main bad guy of the next 3 phases. Not really phase 4 or phase 5, or at least a part of phase 5 because they hadn't planned on it, but it's going to end with him being the main bad guy of what we've been building up to this point. And I think Robert Downey Jr., when you really think about it, like if I had not seen Oppenheimer, he just won an Oscar for Oppenheimer. So they're getting like an Oscar-winning actor back to the MCU, and they probably would have wanted him back anyway. But it's like, I guarantee you, when Robert Downey Jr. won that Oscar, Marvel was probably like, we might have messed up. Like, we might have really messed up not continuing with this guy, because he just won an Oscar for this other movie that had absolutely no relation to us, and that hurts a little bit. I guarantee you that part of them was thinking that. And so, bringing him back, I think that Robert Downey Jr., because of his role in Oppenheimer, he plays kind of a menacing, sort of villainous figure in Oppenheimer, if you haven't seen it. And again, if I had not seen that movie, I might be a little bit more skeptical. But because I have seen that movie and the character he plays in that movie, and also you mix that a little bit with him playing Sherlock Holmes in the 2 Sherlock Holmes films that he did, which I really like those films, and Iron Man himself, you got the charisma of Tony Stark, you've got the cunning, street-smart intelligence of Sherlock Holmes, and you've got the menacing, more villainous side from the character he played in Oppenheimer. I think that you mix those 3 things together and you get some semblance of a Doctor Doom. Now, I still want them to completely, go the extra mile with, the comic-accurate Doom design. I want the big suit. I want the whole deal. I want them to do the voice modulator where it deepens his voice. I want all of it. Then imagine all of that with Robert Downey Jr.'s acting prowess brought into this character, and just this, you can see how all of that would make for a phenomenal, possibly the best MCU villain we've seen yet. That is the potential I'm seeing here, and that is why I'm really ecstatic. And like I said before, I think this is a much better direction to go with things than Kang, because I was excited for Avengers Kang Dynasty when they announced it. I was already familiar with the character of Kang. I'm familiar with him because of the cartoon Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I freaking love that cartoon. Probably the best Marvel cartoon, and Kang in that is awesome. And Doctor Doom is in that cartoon as well, like I said before. And so I was excited for Kang. I was excited about the idea of the multiversal element and there being a ton of different Kangs that they would have to fight, blah, blah, blah. That all sounded cool. But because of what happened with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and just because of a whole bunch of different things, them not setting it up properly, you just kind of ruined the momentum. Quantumania did not establish the stakes at all of this new threat the way the first Avengers movie did, with establishing the stakes of potentially Thanos coming into the MCU, which of course he did. They did not do it the right way at all when it came to Kang. And so at this point, especially with them having to fire Jonathan Majors, it was just a much better idea to go with one of the real main bad. Again, not that Kang's not awesome. He's an awesome bad guy, but Doctor Doom is one of the main bad guys of all of the Marvel Universe. I mean, he's had multiple run-ins with each major MCU character. He's fought the Hulk. He's fought Spider-Man. He's the main villain of the Fantastic Four, but he also has very much so a rivalry with Iron Man. So there's so much potential with this character by itself, and I think there's even more potential with Robert Downey Jr. playing him, bringing that charisma back. And again, even though he's playing a different character, it still feels like we had lost the heart of the MCU with Endgame, and it feels like they're bringing the heart, Robert Downey Jr., of the MCU back as the villain. If he was just playing another random side character, even if he was playing a multiversal variant of Iron Man, it wouldn't really feel as special, but he's playing the opposite end of the spectrum. We get to see his talent. We get to see him carry the MCU as the super villain and not the superhero, and that's my favorite part about all of this, is that we're going to get to see that dichotomy if they do it right. And again, Avengers Doomsday, by the way, is a sick title. That is a boss title. Like I said before, I was excited for Kang Dynasty, but I was not nearly as excited for Kang Dynasty as I am now for Avengers Doomsday. That has way more gravitas. That makes way more sense. Especially when you talk about the fact that they're doing Secret Wars, which Doctor Doom is a major part of the Secret Wars storyline from the comics. And Secret Wars sounds awesome. I've always been on board with them doing Secret Wars, because Secret Wars is literally what I like best about the Marvel Universe, and any universe for that matter. It's all of the superheroes versus all of the supervillains. And Doctor Doom especially, and we just have this insanely massive brawl with each other. It's just basically dumping out all of your Marvel toys and making them fight. And it might sound too simple to a lot of people, but that's what I love about these universes, is good versus evil, and Secret Wars is the pinnacle of that. And with Robert Downey Jr. as the big bad instead of the big good, That to me is a recipe for ultimate awesomeness. So I'm really excited. If you can't tell, I'm really looking forward to it. Like, this actually has me really looking forward to something that Marvel is doing. And, you know, I was looking forward to Deadpool and Wolverine. That turned out to be good. So I'm hoping that in less than 2 years, when we actually get this movie, it'll be everything that we're all wanting it to be. But those are my thoughts on all of this. Super excited. And if they can just get that writing right, we could possibly have another phenomenal Avengers film. But thank you guys for watching. Have a very blessed day. May the Lord be with you. May the Force be with you. Goodbye. And that's a wrap. And holy crap. Like that. Oh no.